Thank you very much. This session, we are going to discuss about the copyright issues and challenges in broadcasting. In fact, the journey of copyright started after the invention of printing press, and then we have seen the first act, that the Statute of Anne, and later on in the Berne Convention 1886, we are able to settle the standards for the copyright. And it has gone a long journey to come today, that is the challenges of online streaming on internet and the broadcasting. And now we have the very advanced law, that World Copyright Treaty, World Performance Phonograms Treaty, and then we have seen the DRMS and all. And then still the challenges are there because people are trying to violate the copyrights. We are trying to holistically see this particular issue because internet is not a localized place. It is a global issue because every country, they are very fast moving towards internet technology and also going to be online. So everywhere the challenge is faced, and the country, they are trying to go and try to follow the pace and try to change their laws and in the context of the WCT, WPT. But the challenge is that those who are the content producers, they are always the person who is the last stage. They are the mostly losing the real game, because in copyright law, the person who is creating the content, they were always in a problem. And those who are actually the societies and all, or the person who was trying to utilize the content, they're always trying to suppress their rights, not willing to pay and all. The whole challenge is that now the person who is creating the copyright, who is the more creative and who is giving the new and the original expression, how we are going to protect their rights. And second is that because of the technology and fast growth in the online medium, currently, because it is not only the content, but also the audio-visual things, and also advertisements, news, a lot of contents are created, and creating of the content is not a very easy game. It is having a lot of heavy price we paid to create the content. And also the content should not be copied. Now the question is that the licensing, how licensing should be managed, and who will be paying, what amount of royalty should be there. So there are a whole lot of issues are there. So today I'm very happy to have very eminent global kind of the leaders today sitting with me. Dr. Paula is my left side, Cristina, Cunha, she is from Portugal. Big hand to Dr. Paula for coming all the way and being the part of the panel. Big hand to Dr. Paula. And also my right side is Aditya Verma, one of the very well-known figure in the area of this IPR, and he is heading the OSN as IP head. Thank you for coming, and big hand to Mr. Aditya Verma. Now, just to start the discussion, I'll just ask a few questions with both of them, and after that, floor will be open for the question from the audience, and then we will conclude the session. So I'll just ask first question. My first question is that how can the rights holders work together in jointly combating the piracy? Because piracy is the real issue right now. It was always there, just forms are changing. When we do not have any online internet, we had a CD, DVD and all. Now we have more advanced kind of technology. So challenges have grown very fast. It's very easy to copy, very easy to follow because social media and all. So the problem has gone very high. So any one of you can answer my first question? Yeah, thank you. Dr. Paula?
Maybe. Let's see if this works. Good afternoon, everybody. This has been a long day with very important issues and a very important debate. Firstly, I'd like to thank the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure for me. It's my first time here in this conference, in this Gorilla conference. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate the organization because I think all this conference, these 2 days, has been wonderful. I learn a lot. That's what I must say. I must recognize that I learn a lot. And actually, I don't know if I can add anything to you, but okay. I'm coming from Portugal, as Dr. Ahmad said, and thank you for spelling so well my name, because Cunha is very difficult to say in English. I'm coming from Portugal. I'm a CEO of the Portuguese Society of Authors. We are a non-profit organization. We are 95 years old, so we are very old. We are one of the oldest society of authors in the world. We represent in Portugal almost 30,000 artists, authors from all the creations, meaning composers, writers, visual arts, audiovisual, etc. So we gather all the repertoire, which is almost unique. In Europe, we only have 2 society of authors with all these areas. So we also represent millions of authors around the world, because we have agreements with our sister societies. So this is the scope of our actuations, of our organization. Your question is a very good question. How can right holders, and all of us are right holders, broadcasters, authors, creators are right holders. Sometimes we can show different points of view from broadcasters and the creators, but at the same time they are different, and at the same time they are complementary. For the latter, for the creators, it's very important. I won't be very polite now, but it's very important, and this is not for you, I know, but unhappily this happens. It's very important that all the broadcasters are licensed, as it's one of the revenue sources of the creators' income. For instance, according to data from CISAC, it's the International Confederation of Societies of Authors and Composers. CISAC comprised 239 collective management organizations from 122 countries, and CISAC represents more than 4 million creators all over the world. I repeat, 4 million creators is a huge number of culture. According to these data, which are recent, less than 50% of the broadcasters in Africa not have a license. So it is a problem, it is an issue. Because author society brings value for the creators by licensing and monetizing creations works. Our societies act as intermediaries between thousands of individuals, creators, and the users of their works. So, when broadcasters don't care about being licensed, this is unfair, because it stalls the development of the local creative sectors. And why is this important? This is important because if the creators receive and when I mean the creators, I mean the right holders, all the right holders, receive the remuneration for the use of their work, of course, from different income, they bring value to broadcasters. Moreover, all of us know that culture is a drive for economic development of the countries, as well as the well-being of the peoples. So this is very important. Right holders must work together. We can create campaigns to raise awareness. I think awareness has been the most spoken word during these 2 days, but it's true. We need awareness on this issue. We can join efforts directly or through our international organization. I think that we in Europe, we have a very good example, a recent example, which is the so-called DSM directive, the European directive on the digital single market. This was a huge battle. It took 5 years. At the end, we won. But we face giants with far greater financial potential. I'm sure all of you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fight that the right holders had within the European Parliament against, not against, but the giants as Google, the GAFA, began a, how can I say this? Began a very, very bad campaign against right holders. They imagine that one day each one of the members of the European Parliament receives an email saying that this directive, the draft of this directive will finish the internet. We won't have internet anymore. And suddenly, all of us in our countries, in our European countries, began to listen, to hear our children, our family, our friends, asking, what is this? Do you want to finish, to kill internet? We won't have internet anymore? Why? And this is true, this is fake. But, you know, one false idea, thousands and thousands and thousands of times almost becomes true. And we came up with a very strong commitment with all the stakeholders from all the areas. We put our differences aside, we work together, we fight on behalf of a greater idea, of a greater value, which is the defense of the right holders, that we say, no, this is not true, because we are not going to finish, we are not going to kill the internet. The only thing that we are asking for is that you Facebook, you Amazon, you YouTube, you must share a little piece of the global pie, because if you are earning millions of dollars, it's because you have there our creations. So the right holders have the right to receive a little payment from this. This is all we want, nothing more. And at the end, I repeat, because this is very important, and I think this is one of the answers to your questions, is that at the end, we won because we all work together. No matter the differences we are, no matter if we belong to a collective management organization or the industry, we all work together, and finally, after 5 years, we have our DSM approved, and now it's a very important step that we did in Europe, and I think it will be spread all over the world. So I think, yes, we can work together.
Thank you, Paula. And now the second question, that what are the most effective legal tools to protect and enforce copyright in India, European Union, and then Middle East, America, and other places?
Thank you. First, thank you for the introduction. I wish, someone would introduce me like that to my boss. That would really help me. And, I would just like to supplement a few things which Dr. Paula mentioned. So within the broadcasting organization as such, and we are a pay TV operator. We operate around 25 countries in the Middle East, but most of our licensors are either based out of North America or Europe. And then, so we work very closely with them. What happens at the EU level also affects us in terms of, enforcing our rights within the region. So within a broadcasting organization, there are people like us who want to protect IP, go against copyright infringement. And as Dr. Ahmad mentioned, the way content is now being published is not just over the air or through satellite, it's or encrypted signals, it's also over the internet via various means, whether it's websites or apps or any other means of accessing it. So it's always evolving. And within an organization, there's always a commercial team, and there's there's the other side which is trying to protect the content. And for us, it was more important to ensure that we are aligned with our licensors. And of course, we participated in the papers where our advice was invited from the industry. We work with our licensors and different IP enforcement authorities to publish those papers, our advice on that, so that an industry input can be provided. Now, when it comes to legal tools, as Dr. Ahmad asked, now there are two parts to this question. One is obviously, the legal. That means you have to look and review the legislation for different jurisdictions where you operate. And tools is the means to achieve an end. So we are a business, and we try to work within the framework of the law. We cannot change the law. We can only ask for the law to be interpreted in a certain way. As the industry evolves, we need to be more creative in our enforcement complaints, in our litigation, in our drafts, in our discussions with the authorities, to ensure that the law, which may be a decade old or 20 years old, is still relevant today. Now, we are only as strong as your weakest link, as they say. So for a broadcaster or a pay TV operator like us, we ensure that we first protect ourselves technologically, where our systems and our signals are properly encrypted, and we deploy the best possible technology to work with our licensors as well as with our subscribers. And the second step is to ensure that we are robust in terms of our enforcement activities. So, things start at home. So we've got a team which works very closely with the legal department to monitor and go after infringements. We work with all the licensors, we cooperate, and I think this was a relevant point which was raised in the second last panel just before this, where there was I think it was a Dr. Ahmad Daba who mentioned that it was Nicole's panel, where basically, I think the panel agreed that the key is cooperation. And as you said, Dr. Paula, it's a difficult thing for broadcasters to come together. So I can imagine the task which you had when you went to EU and you were trying to lobby for all these changes. And obviously there are lobbyists who get paid a lot of money at the EU with the commission and everything. But we had to do the same things as well. We had to lobby to come together and agree on our key KPIs, let's say, like a business, and work with the authorities, go together and ask these things from the authorities. So legal tools are a means to begin that discussion and means to enforce our rights.
May I just would like to add something. We cannot do the law,
yes,
but we can ask for the law,
yes,
and we can do lobby in a good way. You mentioned one very important thing. We mentioned lots of important things, of course, but the last one, we talk about, you talk about millions. Well, I cannot publicly say the number that I know, that which was the figures from Google, but I can assure you that it was giant, and I can assure you that we all together spend a small part of that number, and even though we achieve our goal. So if we work together, of course we have to spend some money, of course we have to put some money, we are doing business, as you said, but I think the most important, of course, we need money, and it's for sure. But the most important is to be aware of the importance of the problem and the importance of to get the solution, because this is really, really important for the right holders. So money is important, but it's not the most important, because Google, and I say Google on behalf of all GAFA, put much more money than us, and at the end of the day, we won.
Good. Now, my third question is that are the laws keeping pace with technology at the disposal of pirates, and what changes have been made or should be made in the current scenario?
Well, I think the laws. I think tech is always ahead. Laws. So we have to, sorry, I have a problem with this mic, or the problem is a mic with me, I don't know for sure. Can you repeat the question?
Are the laws keeping pace with the technology, or
no,
if changes are made, what changes should be made to just
in my
protect
opinion,
the rights of the right holders?
Yeah, in my opinion, the tech is always ahead of the laws. I don't know if you want to.
I would like to slightly differ. I agree with you in part with your answer. See, the law...
Different is good.
Let's begin with Europe. I'll give you an example. So anyway, so on a holistic view, laws need to be tested before we can say that the laws have to be changed.
Yeah.
So the legislation is no doubt evolved, but only because it was tested. And there were judgments on that law saying that the law is limited on this particular point. So 3 years ago, let's begin with you. You mentioned the consultancy papers and, the changes you brought about with the EU Commission and the EU ECJ, etc. Those changes came about because there were certain cases pending in national courts in the UK, in Germany, in France. And there's a enforcement arm for audiovisual content in Netherlands called Breen. And, they brought about the film spiller case.
And in Spain.
And, that went on for 2 years, 3 years, that had opinions from the Attorney General, with the Commission, and there were contradictory opinions, right? But ultimately, it was decided in favor of the rights owner. But it took a period of 3 years to get there. And there were cases pending before the UK courts on that particular issue. And as soon as this issue was decided, those other cases automatically, were upheld in the favor of the rights owners. Now, in this region, we've had several discussions with the authorities, and in a very friendly discussions, and especially the UAE, they encourage business to grow, and they ensure that the industry is a party to decision making when it comes to policies and legislation. And we held several discussions with several stakeholders, and the way we proceeded is you have to be within the ambit of the law, be creative, and ask for things. So one of the big challenges here we have is to and I think in any jurisdiction, is to be able to, when you talk about, infringement on the internet and other things, is the collection of the evidence, because that's very dynamic. It keeps changing. And then the second challenge is to be able to produce it in a form which is understood by the prosecutor and the judge. And that has to be within the framework of the law. And then we submit memos to, to explain where we are coming from, what is the infringement, how our security system was breached, or how the content was pirated. And then we ask for a judgment within the prescribed penalties. So, I mean, that's where I differ from you. But, I say, if you don't test it, then you don't know. So, it will evolve when there is a need.
Great. Let me cite two cases in India because of these kind of issues. There was a Shira Singhal case and the case of the Entertainment Networks versus Super Cassette Industries, just to resolve the issue of the access and benefit sharing challenges, because always when you're not able to access and you're not able to afford the particular content, you'll try to do the piracy. So these kind of things are happening, may also be happening to the other countries. This is Indian scenario. Let me ask the fourth question, that can government assist such a through the regulations to fight against the pirate streams and infringing the content on the internet?
Yeah, I can answer in due, but
Please go ahead.
okay. I think governments can assist in very manners. Oh my God, they have all the power, almost all the power. Well, the many international instruments addressing the right of broadcasting organizations are, as we know, the Rome Convention and the TRIPS Agreement. We all know that. The protection of program carrying signals is currently provided, I'm pretty sure, by the Satellite Convention since 1974. So, since 1974, that broadcasters don't have any additional protection. This is still very important because it provides protection against unauthorized distribution of satellite signals. The main obligation enshrined in the Satellite Convention is to prevent the distribution of program-carrying signals by any distribution for whom the signal passes through the satellite not intended. Okay, we also have the TRIPS agreement to protect some categories of right holders, but the broadcaster. WPPT treaty, unlike the Rome Conventions and the TRIPS agreements, does not provide, and I must underline this because I think this is very important, does not provide any protections for broadcaster, as we all know, unfortunately. Now I think we have to mention the WIPO Broadcasting Treaty, not yet approved. Its goal was and still is to protect the interest of the broadcasting organization, which has not been included in WIPO 1996 treaties. However, due to some divergences between the member states, this has not been accomplished yet. As far as I understood, one of the main problems were a kind of signal-based approach versus content-based approach in the previous draft. I think it's that. I think it was that because I talked to one of the experts who made a statement about that, and that's what I got. Now I think things are going well, and maybe WIPO can reach an agreement on this matter. I've been working with WIPO, not on this specific issue, but I heard things, and I think things are going well. But once again, are the governments the main party of this? Because are the governments sit there during the meeting, during the General Assembly of SCCR? The Rome Conventions protects against unauthorized broadcasting, rebroadcastings, but only if it does via wireless means and at same times at initial broadcast. So, therefore, it's not enough. We need more. You need more. The industry need more. Those with rights in the content of broadcast would automatically benefit from strengthening the rights of broadcaster. If a broadcaster can more easily obtain an injunction against unauthorized use of it original broadcast signal, this also puts an end to the unauthorized use of the content. So once again, we must work together.
Yes.
Therefore, I think governments can try to reach an agreement in the international level, but they can do more. And I think they have to do more because the challenges that they faced are huge. We need technological measures of protection. These are keys. But once again, it's not enough. Government should also assure law enforcement, because if we don't have law enforcement, we don't have anything. We can have the most beautiful law, the most beautiful code, the most beautiful technological measures, but if we don't have law enforcement, we don't have nothing.
Thank you. So now this brings the last question that...
I just wanted to add on that. So you brought in very relevant points, and there's something which connects to the legal tool question you asked. So the enforcement part can be, you've got the criminal part, you've got the administrative part, and you've got the civil part. So to supplement the answer from this region to your question is, within the region, if you look at different countries, especially within the UAE, we've got all three enforcements done. And the government does that, not just for copyright enforcement, but across, counterfeit products, etc. And we managed to establish now, this is the latest news, is that we managed to establish an administrative process for pirate website blocking in UAE, Kuwait. This has not been replicated anywhere else. And the Hollywood studios, the MPA, everyone is trying to do that. But this is unique to these two countries. We're trying to initiate it in Saudi Arabia as well. And unfortunately, Dr. Hegazy is not here, but he is part of that discussion we're having in Egypt.
Okay, thank you. So just last question, very quick, because we have the paucity of time. So very quickly, I want to answer that how can the right holders improve their situation in this scenario?
See, if you don't ask, you don't get. So first is to come together to ensure that you have a proper educational campaign. But first and foremost, if I speak as a broadcaster, and this is something I said it when I was being hired, and I probably think this was the winning answer, but you have to make your content easily accessible. Now you got the likes of Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, etc. They're all out there, and they are very easily accessible. So if the content or the copyright protected work is easily accessible, then people don't go, downloading pirated copies. That that industry will die a slow death.
Yeah.
But there will still be people who will keep pirating it, but that would be a very minority sort of number. And let's hope we progress to that. About educational campaigns and awareness, that is a work we need to do with the government, with the fellow industry members and licensors. And I think I think I just sum it up like that.
Okay, thank you. So big hand to both the panelists for really giving very right and to the point answers. Now the floor is open for the participant. If you have any query, any questions, any suggestions, please come forward.
Yes.
We are open to questions now.
Any questions?
Hi, I'm Pragati Sharma from New Delhi. I have a question for Mr. Verma. What are the key measures taken by OSN to control the potential infringement of copyright of their content? Any advanced measures that you are taking?
I mean, I don't know where to begin, but so
One more day.
I'll give you a few. I can't share everything because I don't think we have time, but I'll try and answer your question as briefly as possible. Like I said, you're only as strong as your weakest link, so we make sure we are well compliant with our contracts. We use the best technology, and we protect our content as much as possible. We have full controls wherever we license or sub-license our content, and with our dealers, with our commercial subscribers, etc. We have a very sophisticated tool which monitors the internet to crawl the internet to find out, whether it's a pirate IPTV decoder or an app or content floating around on the internet. And we report those to the licensors, or we try and take down those content where we are authorized to do so. We work with local authorities across the region for enforcement actions on ground, police raids, court cases. We've even had a very unique infringement case. This was about the commercial exploitation of satellite overspill signals. This was against an Indian pay TV operator called Dish TV. We've got the injunction in our favor. We've maintained that in our appeal, and the main suit is about to be heard. So, we've taken a lot of steps, and it spans over a different, it's a large scope of actions. So, is there any specific thing you wanted to ask on that?
Just this, what you have just answered, just technical aspects. Thank you.
But, the other thing is in certain countries or jurisdictions where you think that the courts will not understand what you're talking about, so you have to rely on a multitude of rights. So if we see our logo present on particular content somewhere, we also rely on trademark rights. That also works for the e-commerce platforms, etc. So you need to use and exhaust and be creative in how best you can go ahead with that.
Thank you.
Any more question, anybody?
Questions? Yes.
Yeah.
My name is Farooq Irfan Khan, and my question to Aditya Verma is that, is there a platform here where you right holders or broadcasters can get together and iron out your differences? Do you have a platform in the Gulf or in the Middle East?
Yes, sir. So there is a coalition between 4 major broadcasters, the Hollywood studios, the MPA, and the satellite operators. We all come together every quarter. It's called the MENA Broadcast Satellite Coalition, and meetings are held either sponsored by us here or one of the other bigger broadcasters, NBC, or in Cairo by Rotana or ART, or in Amsterdam by the MPA or the studios. And once a year we meet in London as well. So that is a forum where it's a voluntary organization, it's a voluntary coalition. There is a code of conduct, and people try to abide by it. The purpose of that coalition is to avoid going to the courts or filing official complaints. So there are instances where infringements from a free-to-air channel can carry on for about a month or 2 or 3 months, but we are always corresponding, and we're trying to sort out those issues.
Okay.
And we're also members of other organizations, the MPA, IPTV Task Force, the APA, which is EU specific, and we are now considering ACE, which is a niche, most powerful coalition at the moment, actually, which is which Netflix, Amazon, and the studios are also members.
Any more
I
questions?
think,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think because of positive time we have to close, because you may ask question outside.
Yeah. we can have
the
I
room
think
once
the-
we are
I would like,
finished.
I would like
You want to add something? Yeah.
just to add a quick note. In August 2012, an article from New York Times noted that the top pirate TV shows are downloaded several millions times a week. And the title of this article was Internet Pirates Will Always Win. I hope not.
So, thank you very much for being a good audience, very nicely listening patiently and also asking good questions. So, thank you all of you for participation. And thank you, my fellow panelists, great thought, great ideas, really very practical thoughts you brought in. That was very new maybe for a lot of you. So, thank you, Dr. Paula. Thank you, Aditya Verma, for sharing very great thoughts, practical ideas. But what I want to just conclude by just saying 3 words as per the conclusion that those for the content creators, please be together, be a group. Please try to have use of cutting edge advanced technology and please try to pressurize the government policymakers for your own interest. With these few words, I close here. Thank you all of you. Big hand to these fellow
Thank you
panelists
so
and all
much.
of
A
you.
round of applause.
Yeah.
All right, can I please request all of you to join for a group picture?